You're listening to the weekly Dartscast, and now your co-hosts, one-time UK Open Riley's qualifier participant Alex Moss, and the one-time VIP guest of Barry Hearn, Burton DeWitt. 180! Hello, and welcome to an episode of the weekly Dartscast. Alex Moss here, joined as always by my co-host. He's making another push to be the Strava King of Darts. Burton DeWitt, how are you doing?
Yeah, well, this local legend only took 3 segments, 2 of which I did in the same run. So right now I'm maybe the Strava prince, but I'm doing all right. How are you, Alex?
Doing good, thank you. Keep up the good work on that. And we've got a stacked show for you guys this week. We've got 5 guests on the programme, all of whom are going to be in Germany this week for the PDC World Cup of Darts. And we're going to go straight into the first of those guests. So here's our chat with Dave Chisnall.
I'm joined today by the former world finalist and a member of Team England, Dave Chisnall. Dave, how are you?
Hi, I'm good. I'm very good, sir.
And thank you for joining us. Firstly, we're just now 3 days away from the PDC World Cup in Germany. How much are you looking forward to putting the England shirt back on?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It's very exciting. It's been a while since I've last worn the shirt, so yeah. Very, very looking forward to it.
You mentioned it's been a while, first time since 2018. It'll be your 3rd World Cup, but a 3rd different player you're playing with. You played with Adrian Lewis and Rob Cross the first 2 times. This time you'll partner up with James Wade as the top seed. How do you rate your chances in the World Cup?
I think we can go deep in the tournament. It's one of them. It's always get past the first round first because it's not the better format. It's only first to 5, I think, a game of doubles. So get through that, and you never know what can go on.
Well, James was in Budapest this past weekend for the Euro Tour. It'll be your first event since Players' Championship events about a month ago now. How have you spent the last 4 to 5 weeks? Have you played local events or used the time to rest, or what?
I'll just practice a few days a week and just rest most of the time. That's all I've done really. Had a game, played a few rounds of golf, and then more practice, and that's it.
We'll come back to the World Cup later, but I want to go back to the beginnings of darts for you. What are your earliest memories of being introduced to the sport?
Well, to be fair, when I first started, I was only playing like Super League and County. And the world was coming on TV every year. I watched that, and I always thought I could do that. So yeah, I practiced hard for so many years before I even thought of going over BDO, and played for England, played the County, played Super League, and I thought, yeah. And I think it took me 10 years to start thinking I could do it.
Now, your Wikipedia page says that you first played in a friend's bedroom and you threw a 180 on your first visit to the board. Is that true?
No, I weren't a 180. I threw a ton. I don't think it was a 180. I'm sure it was a ton.
What did it feel like to throw a ton with your first 3 darts ever?
Well, to be honest, I just went up to the board. I don't even throw in from the right place because there was no line there. I just throw darts at a board and a ton. And then my mate just said to me, like, you can play flooding on a Tuesday night league in the pub. But I said I was only 17 at the time.
You said earlier that it took a while before you started playing more than just county. It was 2008 when you really started making big strides in the BDO, winning the Isle of Man Open, England Nationals, and came through the qualifiers to qualify for your first Lakeside. What do you remember about coming through the ranks?
I don't really remember much because I didn't really go to many tournaments on the circuit. I just tried to qualify through the qualifiers my first year, and I was playing. I can't remember who I was playing. I was playing somewhere there, and I was first to 3, and you had to win by 2 clear legs, and I won 3-2, but obviously I didn't win by two clear legs, as I thought one, but I never. But I ended up sneaking through that game, and I played the next game and it put me through.
And then, of course, you made your Lakeside debut then in the start of 2009 against Martin Adams. How special was it playing the Lakeside stage for the first time?
Yeah, it was very special. It was very new. I just went there to enjoy it and try and play some great darts. And I played really good against Martin Adams the first time I played him in the first round. And I took him to a tie-breaker in that one. But I think experience won it for him.
Well, next year, played him again, but it was a little later in the tournament, all the way in the final, losing out 7-5. What memories have stuck with you from that week, and what's it like to have played in a World Championship final?
When I was playing through the week, I was just like, I knew I could do it and just keep doing it. And when I got to the final, it was like, when I was doing all the interviews for the final, I was like, wow, am I here? And as I played, and there's only one thing I can remember of Adams when he took that 170 out on me. And he took the ice finish as well. So I was on the 164, leading.
Now, following year or a year later, you went to a Q school and successfully made the switch over to the PDC, winning a tour card on day one. It's hard to believe, but that's now 10 years ago. How do you look back on, you're so far 10 years in the PDC?
I look back, I've had a great 10 years. I've done very well. Qualifying for the Q school on the first day was special. To be fair, on the first day, I left my darts at home. I picked up the wrong darts. Instead of picking mine, I picked Eric Bristow's up. Like, the my darts, but I was practicing with them. And I picked the wrong darts case up, and I ended up getting through with them. So, yeah, it was weird.
Of course, at that time, you've won 15 titles, 2 Euro Tour titles, been to 7 finals on the TV, as well as made it well into the top 10 on multiple occasions. What do those achievements mean to you?
Yeah, it means everything. It means that I know I can play the game. I'm just as good as all the rest, all the top 10 boys, or top 16, top 32 boys. It's just, it's just trying to defend it each year. Yeah, it was the hardest, but I've done that. I've done so well to keep me ranking, so I'm pleased.
Have to talk about the performance at the World Championships just this past year, going against, someone who's been a bogeyman for you, Michael van Gerwen, and beat him to 0, averaging nearly 110 in that match. I guess first, what were your expectations going into that match, and how did it feel to play that well against the world number one?
Well, when I walked into the venue, when I beat Dimmer on in the last 16, that was a tough game, and I just said to myself, I had an early night before and said, I phoned the missus up and just said, I can't let him keep beating me. It was 26-0, I think. I'll play 27, draw 1 in the Premier League, and he's won 26. And I thought I had to play well to beat him, because he played steady himself, and it was just one of them. I just turned up that night.
What did you feel when that winning double went in? Was it relief? Was it excitement, or what?
Yeah, it was relief, because I've not beaten for so long. But I still, when I was 4-0 up, I thought, this man's that good, he can come back and beat me 5-4. So when the last double went in, I was so relieved.
Well, let's talk a bit about this year. Quarterfinals and a couple TV events, the Masters, UK Open. But surprisingly, on the floor, your best run so far has been a last 16. How would you assess your 2021 season so far?
Well, playing all right on TV, and I'm not on the floor. I've not been playing very well at all, because I found it quite hard. Probably not practicing enough at home. But yeah, TV events, I practice solid for them. So maybe just do more practice at home for the Pro Tours as well.
Well, it's going to be a busy bit of the year coming up, and it's good if you're playing well on TV because most of it will be on TV, next being the World Cup. You and James Wade flying the flag for England. Have the two spoken that much since your spots have been confirmed, or are you going to wait to get to Germany to touch base?
Yeah, well, we've not spoke because we didn't know who was in or who wasn't. So, well, I certainly didn't know. Then I only found out probably the last Pro Tour we played in. So yeah, and we'll just have a chat when we get over there, because I've not seen James.
You know, last year at the World Cup, we saw Johnny Clayton win his first TV title, and he at the World Cup, and since then's gone on and added 2 more in the Masters and Premier League. Do you take inspiration from that and think that maybe you can do the same and the World Cup might open the floodgates?
Yeah, I think that. It's like I said, it's getting that first major title. The game's there. It's just doing it and keeping focus at all times.
And of course, we're now starting to see fans come back. We saw a full crowd at the match play in Blackpool after more than a year of events behind closed doors. And of course, alongside that, we're now seeing local opens, grassroots darts, and a bunch of other stuff return. What are you most looking forward to about the rest of the year and playing in front of fans?
I'm looking forward to. I look forward to playing in Blackpool in front of the fans, but obviously it didn't go my way. Like everybody loves the fans. They thrive off the fans. They want to play well for them, not just yourself. Yeah, looking forward to the rest of the year. I've always said the back end of the year is probably where I play my best darts.
Well, Dave, thank you for joining us, and best of luck playing the best darts at the back end of the year.
Cheers. Thank you very much.
Thanks again to Dave for joining us. Now, before we get into our preview of the World Cup, we're going to look back, and the European Tour made its return at the weekend, the Hungarian Darts Trophy, and the world number one, Gerwyn Price, going into beast mode for the last 2 games to win the title. Is this a bad sign for the rest of the field?
It's always a bad sign when the world number one is playing like the world number one, regardless who the world number one is. So I'll say yes. But you look at the 3 matches before that, Gerwyn Price was ordinary at best during those 3 matches. Was fortunate to get, especially that Damon had a match, because looked like had him on the ropes, but just couldn't. Also was struggling a bit in that match and wasn't able to put him away. But once he got through to the semifinal, once he got through to late into that final session, he was unstoppable. Those performances against Luke Humphries in the semifinals and Michael Smith in the final were what we came to expect at the back end of last year and beginning of this year from Gerwyn Price. He really looked like the player that lifted the World Championship, that was winning titles left and right, both on the floor and on TV over the past year. And that is a bad sign. It doesn't mean no one can beat him. He had some lulls, and he did give some opportunities, but Luke Humphries couldn't take him. Michael Smith couldn't take him. And many of those opportunities were, the old, what Taylor would say, he gives you chances. He gives you a chance at 1-2-1 or 1-6-1. A lot of that was what Gerwyn Price was doing, but finishing so many legs and 14 darts on the spin, it's hard to break. If you're throwing in a 14 darter, you have to break that. You need to throw in 12. And Gerwyn Price was consistently finishing his own legs and was very difficult to break. So, yeah, I think it is a bad sign for the field, but that doesn't mean he's not beatable. He showed in 3 matches that he was beatable. He played at a level that, half the field could have and would have beaten him in had he played and not against them in the second and third round. So, yeah, it's never good when the world number one looks like the world number one, but there are at least, signs that he is still struggling at times. Can he put that together for an entire tournament? That's what we have to see. Granted, him struggling, still good enough to get through to the semifinals. So, yeah, I think it is a bad sign for the rest of the field.
I think you're right, and we've got to mention as well that over the weekend that he was tinkering with his equipment, and that's something that we don't really associate with Gerwyn Price. I think we've told the story on the show before. One of the first times that we spoke to him, he told us the story about when he went to a local open in Wales. This is before He went to Q-School, he saw a set of darts on one of the stalls that he liked, bought them for about £10-12, won the tournament with them, stuck with those darts, and when he signed with Red Dragon, they made him a dart that was very similar to that dart, and he's used it pretty much up until now, and he's still using them now. He went back to them for the last few games, and we saw what he was able to produce in those final couple of games as well. So he went back to the tried and tested, and he's tried them many times before, and he's produced performances like he has done in those semi-final and final games, the 107 average, the 108 average. But as you say, that the first three games, it was very ordinary. It wasn't a performance that you'd put together with a world number one, a 92 average, an 89 average, a 91 average. And then the last couple of games, he really did turn it on. But there were a few signs in those first few games. He had that 9-darter attempt in his first game, the game against Damon Heta, the last three legs, 112, 199 finish to come back from 4-3 down and win it 6-4. So he was showing those battling qualities of a world champion and a world number one, that even when you're not playing at your best, you can grind out the results. And we've seen that in the past. It doesn't matter who the world number one is, whether it was Phil Taylor or Michael van Gerwen, that they maybe have a little bit of a wobble early on in the tournament. They could have been beaten. They get over that hurdle, and then they just cruise to the finish line. They produce their best stuff. They go through the gears. So that is a worrying sign if you are one of the other players, that if you can't get rid of him early, he is capable of putting those poor performances to one side less than 24 hours earlier, less than a few hours earlier, and produce stuff like that, the 107, 108 averages. So yeah, worrying sign for the rest of the field, but there are players who can produce that level as well. So it's all going to be down to who can produce their best when they need it the most.
And let's talk about some other players, though. Who else impressed Budapest? And is there anyone whose form worried you?
Well, I'll start with the players that did impress, and we've got to highlight Luke Humphries, haven't we? Because his year so far, as we've said, I think a few times on the show this year, the only thing that he is missing now is that first senior title, and he had a good effort at winning it in Budapest at the weekend, didn't he? Got through the first few rounds. He started off in the first round. He then beat Devon Peterson, James Wade, Joe Cullen. That's 3 seeded players in succession, and lost out to Gerwin Price in the semi-final, but he made a good go of it with the comeback, pulling it back to 7-4 in the end when he was a little bit further behind. But that's a first European Tour quarter-final for him, first European Tour semi-final for him, and that run has put him in the Pro Tour top 16. And this is a player that he's very open. He wants to play in all the big events. He loves playing on the stage. He wants to be in the Premier League, and to get into the European Tour at the minute, he has to go through the qualifiers. As things stand, he's going to be one of the seeded players when we have the next European Tours after this next one, if he can keep himself in that top 16. So that's a good sign for him. Look at some of the other players as well, and we've highlighted them a few times recently, that the younger players, Adam Gavlas making his first quarterfinal, Louis Williams, he impressed as well, a good win against Christoph Ratajski, and Keane Barry as well, beating Dirk van Dijvenbode. And that's really where I'm going to come on to with the players that we need to see a bit more from, don't we, as we come into this back end of the year and a lot of big events coming up. And I'll start with Dirk van Dijvenbode, who last year was one of the breakthrough players, his first year with a new tour card, got to a major final, but the last few months he's kind of gone off the boil a little bit. 84 average in his game, losing out. And as we said on the show last week, with this being a condensed European Tour, we just had the first one of the year at the weekend. We've got one more coming up at the end of the month in Gibraltar. Probably not going to see any more after that. These guys that lost in that second round, the seeded players, they're going to be under a lot of pressure going into Gibraltar, because no ranking money on that European Tour Order of Merit. They've got to win that first game, otherwise we're not going to see them at the European Championship. So that includes the likes of Johnny Clayton. Who else did you have in there? Christoph Ratajski, who I've mentioned earlier, Devon Peterson as well. There's a few names in there that mentioned Suljovic as well, although it was great to see him back in action again, and he played pretty well considering we've not seen him on the stage for a little while. So yeah, those players, the seeded players that lost out, need to pick up their form heading into Gibraltar at the end of the month. Yeah,
indeed. And I'll start as well with the players who impressed me, and there were quite a few. And you talked about Luke Humphries. I have to start there as well. Just played very, very well across the weekend. Still averaged over 100 and losing out on the semifinal. And as you said, and have to double up. The only thing missing now is that first title, but I would be very surprised if that's missing for that much longer. The way he's playing both on television and on the floor over the past 6 months or so, you have to think the title is coming, if not by the end of this year, sometime early next year, especially if the schedule's back up to what we expect it to be with a bunch of Euro Tours and Players' Championship events. Not that he can't win a TV event. He only made a major final a few months ago. Who else impressed me? A lot of really good performances. Not a lot of people who were able to string good performances together. You look at Nathan Aspinall averaged 101 his first match and was over 20 points down on that his next. Similarly, Michael Smith averaged 101 his first match and went down 16 points for his next before bouncing back up over the events over his matches on Sunday. A lot of inconsistency. But Adam Gavlas is someone I'll show out. He also had a bad second match after a good first match. But his other three, 2 in the high 90s and 1 in the mid 90s. And that mid 90s was high 90s until he missed some doubles trying to close out Jose de Sousa in the quarterfinal. But to win through to his first quarterfinal, beating Boris Kursmar, who is how often this year has Boris been averaging mid to high 90s and losing? It seems like it's happening every other tournament for him. It happened again against Adam Gavlas and then getting through against Johnny Clayton in the last leg decider. So some good wins under his belt. Very impressive. I'll also throw out one more person who impressed me, who you wouldn't think would because he only played 2 matches and until this year, we used to see him win 2 titles a month, and that's Michael van Gerwen. But he did play well. He averaged well over 100 in his first match against Daryl Gurney, who also played well. And then against Brendan Dolan, didn't play too poorly. But Dolan's become a bit of a bogeyman for him. After winning 14 out of 15 against him from 2012 to 2017, over the last 3 years, they've split the 6. And that's actually on form with what, according to Darts Oracle, you'd expect. Because of current form, they say Van Gerwen should only win about 55% of the time. Well, he's only been winning 50% of the time against him recently, but he still pushed him to a last leg decider before going out against someone who's been a bogeyman for him. It was a good performance, but not good enough to get the win. But good performances and stringing them back to back has been what I've been saying I want to see Van Gerwen do. And he did that, even if he didn't win them both. Who, on the other end of things, there's quite a few people who I could say, but I want to mention someone we haven't talked about a lot this year after talking about him for the last few years quite a bit, and that's Keegan Brown. Averaged under 85 and went out to Richard Veenstra, who didn't play that well, and it's really been a disappointing year for Keegan Brown. He's 77th on the averages on the Players' Championships this year, averaging just shy of 91, and has really struggled to get results, but it would seem like he was starting to come around. Made a quarterfinals at a Players' Championship event at the beginning of July, made it through to a board final at one of the 3 in August, and prior to July, he had never even made a board final this year. That's how much he's struggling. But it really looked like he dropped back again to what we had been seeing at the beginning of the year. And that's concerning for him because we're talking a player who was top 32 and now is unlikely to even make the World Championships this year.
And now we'll move on to our next guest on this week's show, and it is with the Weekly Dartscast Legend of the Year for 2020. Here's our chat with the legend, Paul Lim. I'm delighted to say I'm joined by the Weekly Dartscast Legend of the Year, Paul Lim. Thanks for the time again, Paul. How are you doing?
Thank you. Doing well.
Before we rewind back to when we last spoke, firstly, how excited are you to be heading to Germany next week and making your return to the PDC World Cup of Darts after missing it last year?
I'm really excited about it. Like I said, this has been a tough year, it's been rough 2 years now. And when I was talking to PDC about this a few months ago, they kind of said that because I was kind of afraid that Singapore not be part of the countries involved because we missed out last year. So, but he said no. He says if with the situation is still okay, Singapore will still be invited. And me, and so we're really kind of happy that I still get opportunity to actually compete in the World Cup.
And going back, we last had you on the show just after you won the Hong Kong qualifiers to secure a spot in the PDC World Championship. It was your 25th World Championship, but the first, sadly, behind closed doors. What was that experience like preparing for a World Championship with no fans there and with all the restrictions that were going on at the time?
Oh, that was a big difference. In fact, was able to, we are all able to still carry on in the World Championship anyway, because unlike the other tournaments, the PDC Asian Tour and all that in Asia and all the soft tip tournament I used to go is all cancelled. So I'm delighted, that but even though it's different, but I'm just glad that I could be out there competing.
Yeah, and even without a crowd, your first round game with Luke Humphries is one that fans are going to remember for a little while, coming back from 2-0 down in sets to win 3-2. What do you think was the key to a turnaround so impressive as that one?
Yeah, well, I think I just kept on. Like I said again, it's tough. I mean, against Luke, he's a fast player too, so he was up, basically shooting good darts and putting pressure on me and things like that. And I think it is what we are lacked of, a little bit, because we have to kind of get into that zone, like I said, by the time it takes us to get into that feel of it, right, sometimes it's a bit too late, so it's a bit different. I mean, I wish I was just competing there all the time, which then I think it might make a little bit of difference. I'll be so used to the conditioning and
You bowed out in the next round to Dimitri Vandenberg, who averaged 105. What did you take away overall, though, from those two matches back on the Ali Pali stage?
Well, I tell you what, again, the standard of play right now is so high with those guys over there. I really think, to shoot 105 averages, like I said, that he had on me, is that I think he felt very comfortable playing against me anyway. I was not really in any position that I put pressure on. Whereas I think with Luke Humphries, I think came to a point, there's some pressure on him. That's the reason why it makes a difference. Dimitri was just playing his game, and and I think we all should be doing the same anyway. We were just on, and that's a big difference anyway. Dimitri is a good player, great player.
And I remember chatting to you off there at the time that the next challenge for you was then getting back home from London to Hong Kong. Unfortunately, it wasn't possible, and you didn't leave the UK until Christmas Day when you flew to Singapore to quarantine. Just talk us through the difficulties you went through to get home.
Oh, yeah, it was kind of disappointed actually. In fact, so when the news came out that flights from UK to Hong Kong will be cancelled. There'll be no flights going in. No one allowed to go in from UK. So I was just wondering what I'm going to do now. Stay in UK and wait, because I know the China players waited for over a month in UK. Before they can actually get home to China. So I was thinking, I said, I have to make a move. I mean, I just can't stay in London and wait. So I had a choice of going back to the US or going back to Singapore or staying in UK. So I eventually took the route of going back to Singapore, because somehow with my job with Darts Live, we have our office also in Singapore. So somehow or other, I think I'm at least something I could do, still in Singapore. And I actually talked to them about it, and they said, yeah, go back to Singapore too. So, and then plus Chinese New Year was just around the corner too. So I thought I must come back to Singapore, and then spend Chinese New Year, and then go from there and see what happened anyway. So it was pretty rough. And the worst of all is that I've been in Singapore for the last 7 months now. Since I haven't gone back to Hong Kong because of quarantine too. I mean, the COVID cases were just pandemic was getting kind of wacky in Singapore. It was doing really well. There was supposed to be a travel bubble between Hong Kong and Singapore, where I thought that I would be going back to Hong Kong without any difficulty, no quarantine and all that. Plus, I got my vaccination in Singapore because Singapore was rolling out a vaccination quite early for the seniors. So I got my vaccination quite fast actually. But then still, then suddenly it got bad again with the pandemic, and then the travel bubble never happened. So right now I'm still in Singapore, and luckily, I mean, like I said, my employer, That's Live, actually say that, well, stay in Singapore and wait, because we might want to post you to Japan. So I might go straight from Singapore to Japan and start working for them again in Japan anyway. So.
And we saw on your Facebook 2 days after leaving the UK, December 27th, you were in your hotel room and you had a dartboard up practicing. I know there's not much to do when you're quarantining, but still, that just shows the love that you have for this sport to get straight back on the board and practicing, doesn't it?
Yeah, it was a funny thing because it was the first thing I asked for when I got back, when I got quarantined. I straight away called my good friend. Actually, in fact, they actually were sponsoring me. They would they do Darts Live soft tip dartboard anyway, and they were like a few local bars where they have all those soft tip boards, and I know they sell a lot of accessories and all that. So I just told her, I said, Lena, can you get me a dartboard? So she got me everything and sent it to the hotel for me, and I set it up. It make life a lot easier anyway. So, and also, like I said, I do practice a lot, even though I'm at home. In the past in Hong Kong, I've always have a steel tip dartboard and a soft tip dartboard, and I mostly practice on a steel board anyway.
Happy days. Well, let's get on to the World Cup. We spoke with your partner for Singapore, Harith Lim, on our show just after it was announced last year that he couldn't get to Austria and you would have to withdraw. Did you still watch any of the event, or did you just try and shut off from it? Because I remember you saying how mad you were with the situation.
No, I did watch. I did watch a few matches. I didn't really follow it all through. I was watching, how the Hong Kong team does, because I was kind of close to them. The Hong Kong team, and also, who else played? I think China didn't make it too, so that was kind of a disappointment. But I was watching Hong Kong because they went Royden Lam and FB Leong. Yeah.
Well, the good news is you and Harith are heading to Germany at the start of next week as we talk on the weekend before. Are you both all good to go? And what's the situation like now as far as travel and quarantine?
Yeah, we are set. Actually, in fact, honestly speaking, we are very lucky because as of now, a week or 2 weeks ago anyway, when we keep, because we have to keep inquiring what is the situation like, what do we need to do and all that. The fortunate part is Germany and Singapore is considered one of the countries that Singapore recognized that we actually go there. We do not need to be quarantined once we're vaccinated when we are in Germany. All we need is to do the test there. And then we come back. So there's no quarantine in Germany, first thing anyway. Then when we come back, all we need to do is re-register with the clinic. When we arrive in Singapore, we go through our swab there. The day we arrive to go to the testing. Once we are tested negative, kind of able to just, don't have to go to the government hotels where they just, like I said, advise us where we'll go.
Well, you said to us before about how much you love the PDC World Cup. You and Harith will be aiming to create some more memories next week, but what memories stand out for you from your previous appearances in the tournament?
Well, I mean, it has great memories for years. I mean, there was, like I said, for a few years, we kind of played the first round. We played well. It was a year we went to the quarterfinal. But of course, the one we beat Scotland was it kind of made big, highlight that we were the number one seed and all that. And even the Singapore news actually, which seldom covers darts, they were very excited about it. Even this trip. So from then on, right, they were very interested in our taking part of PDC, whether it's World Championship or the World Cup. But the World Cup we just had an interview with them too about 2 days ago. So it shows that we have done something where that struck up their interest, And actually, like I said, it was great memories of those great matches against Scotland and Wales, and also Spain when we beat Spain too before. So.
Well, looking further ahead, it looks like it will probably be a similar scenario to last year as far as the Asian qualifiers for the PDC World Championship with the one-day qualifier instead of the Asian Tour. Have you heard any details yet, or is it still too early?
Oh, in fact, funny thing is I've been inquiring about it. I think the organizer, the one that's in charge, actually has put it to Hong Kong to try and do the qualifier. So this is where the problem is. Because I am already in Singapore, so if the qualifier is in Hong Kong, I will have to go to Hong Kong for the qualifier for that one spot again. So as far as I know right now, they are considering, because the situation of trying to hold a qualifier right now really depends what happened to the country at that moment. Because, like I said again, with the current situation with the different variant coming out and things like that, we really do not know. So nobody actually commented on anything at all. So I honestly do not know what's going to be the outcome and what's going to happen, and whether will there ever be a qualifier at all for this World Championship. So I really do not know.
Fingers crossed something will happen, and if you were to qualify again for Ali Pali, I don't know if you're aware, but a victory in the first round would see you become the oldest player to win a match in a PDC World Championship, beating John McGowan by 133 days. That would be a record to have on your CV, wouldn't it?
It will be, yeah, that's right. Yeah, it will be. So, like I said, I'm looking forward to it because I honestly, I want to qualify. I'm still competing anyway. So I want to be involved. But right now, with this situation right now, I honestly do not know what's going to happen. So I just keep my finger crossed that I could again take part in this coming year the World Championship in Ali Pali anyway. So.
And lastly, before we let you go, one World Championship that you've already got your name in is the first ever World Seniors Championship, due to take place in February next year at the Circus Tavern. How much are you looking forward to that, and how successful do you think an event like this is going to be?
When I was told that I was invited, I am delighted about that, because I think I have a kind of a new should I say, not agenda, but a dream, because the senior world, because I know I'm in that category right now, and this is the first time they're going to hold a senior world championship. So I felt that I have good chances. I mean, of course, Phil Taylor is going to be there. So, but still, I think with him not competing for so long, maybe there's a lap somewhere. I don't know. I think he's still as good as what he is, but I think I'm improving too. So I'll be putting a lot of effort into it, and I really believe I'll do well there.
Good to hear. Well, we can't wait for that. But before then, it's all eyes on the World Cup, and we wish you and Harry safe travels next week over to Germany, and we can't wait to see you back on that stage. And thanks again for your time.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for having this interview anyway. It's my pleasure, and I really am looking forward to this World Cup again.
Thanks again to Paul for joining us. Now into our preview for the PDC World Cup of Darts, and our question of the week. Gerwyn Price, the world number one and world champion, and Johnny Clayton, the Premier League and Masters champion, are back for Wales. Can anyone stop them defending the World Cup title this weekend? What do you reckon?
Well, I mean, yes, someone can. Will anyone? I don't think they will repeat, and I'm not sure why, but I just have that feeling that they're going to slip up somewhere. But it's hard to imagine where. I mean, Gerwyn Price is the world number one and world champion. Johnny Clayton has been one of the best players, if not the best player at times this year. And, okay, he did not look anywhere near his best this past weekend in Budapest, but if he hadn't played in a month, you expect that he'll bounce back to looking like one of the world's elite players. It was not that long ago that he was winning his second major from 3 attempts this year when he lifted the Premier League trophy. So his every chance that Johnny Clayton will be at least near where he needs to be. And if Gerwyn Price is where he needs to be and Johnny Clayton is near where he needs to be, got to think Wales have a very good chance to lift the trophy again. But there are spots that they can slip up. Finland is a difficult draw for the first match, especially with Marco Cantelli, who has a heap of experience in the doubles format. You don't know what to expect. But beyond that, if they get through that, you think they'll get past Hungary or Lithuania. Then potential bogey against Australia in the quarterfinals. Damon had a great year. Simon Whitlock, he's playing better than he had been, but he's still struggling a bit. You'd expect Wales to get past that, assuming it's Australia. There's other teams, maybe the United States, that they might play, but they would have to be the heavy favorites. And then they're into the semifinals where it's probably going to be Netherlands or Scotland. And that's where I could see them slipping up because, well, it won't take much for Netherlands to get one over them. It won't take much for Scotland to get one over them. Even if, just have to win one of those singles matches and it goes to a doubles match, and anything can happen in a doubles match. So I think Wales is going to slip up in the semifinals. I just have that feeling, whether it's against Netherlands or Scotland. But they should be the favorites. They are the best team on paper, even if they're the number 2 seed, and they are the team to beat.
I mean, I haven't had a chance to look at the odds yet, but you'd imagine that Wales are going to be the favourites with the bookmakers to win the title. And looking at our poll at the moment, which is going to be running until the start of the tournament on Thursday, we've got 57% of you saying that yes, Wales will retain the title, and 43% of you going with no. So it's fairly even. More people obviously saying that they will defend it. And I remember we did our review show of last year's World Cup, and we spoke about how impressive the Welsh team were on their way to winning the title in Austria, Gerwyn Price and Johnny Clayton. And you look at what they've done since then, less than a year since then. Gerwyn Price has won the biggest title of them all, the World Championship. He's become the world number 1. Johnny Clayton, he's won the Masters and the Premier League. They've got a hold of a lot of the big titles in the PDC, and they are two of the best players in the world. It's going to be difficult to see them being stopped this weekend. I look back to last year and how well they played, especially in the final against England when the title's on the line and you're playing a team with the experience of Rob Cross and Michael Smith, and how well they played. The 2 singles games, a 95-105 average, and then the first ever pair to average over 100 in a doubles game in the final, a 103 average. They whitewash England 3-0. Now we've got a different England team this year than last year. We've got James Wade and Dave Chisnall. James Wade, only a few months ago, was winning his 10th TV title at the UK Open. Dave Chisnall, who you've heard from earlier, hitting a big average against Michael van Gerwen at the World Championship. So they're both capable of putting in big performances. The Netherlands, they've got a new team this year. Michael van Gerwen's joined by Dirk van Dijvenbode, who I said earlier he's gone a little bit off the boil, but we all know what he can do. And the Scotland team, we've got a new Scotland team as well. We've not got Gary Anderson, but we do have Peter Wright, the world number 2, back involved again. So I think they're going to be a force. Whether they can go all the way and stop Wales, I'm not so sure. You mentioned them, I'm probably looking at Australia as well. And the two, they played each other at the weekend in Budapest, Damon Heta and Simon Whitlock, and it was an emotional occasion then. I'm sure it's going to be even more emotional this weekend, as it's so soon after we sadly lost Kyle Anderson, who played in the World Cup before as well. So I think they're going to want to do as best as they can, and they are a formidable pairing. And you only got to look back to last year. It was Australia that pushed them really close, took them to a doubles decider, and they could play again in the quarterfinals this year. So for me, I'm looking at Australia. I think they could be the ones to stop them in the quarterfinals, but early rounds, I think they'll be okay. They'll get through. It's going to be that final day when you're going to see a lot of the big challenges coming their way, I think.
The draw was made earlier, well, as of when we're recording today, a few days ago, what time you're listening, with the first round matches set to take place on Thursday and Friday. First match is Hungary versus Lithuania on Thursday. Last match, Belgium versus Croatia on Friday. 14 matches in between those, and 16 including those two. Any that you're particularly looking forward to?
Well, I've got to say, when I was thinking about putting the spreadsheet together at Monday afternoon here, and the draw hadn't been out, the teams hadn't been out, I thought it was going to be a repeat of last week when we did our European Tour preview, and we were going to be previewing a tournament without a draw, but without any of the players as well, because we didn't know all of the players that are going to be involved. But we do now know the full lineup. We do now know the draw. And yeah, there's some tasty ties, I think, in the first round. The one that immediately jumps off the page straight away, and I think it does for a few people, is that Germany-Canada game. Germany had a great run last year against the semi-finals. They knocked out the Netherlands. Gabriel Clemens and Max Hopp, are they in as good as form as they've been in the past? You probably say no, but they're going to have that home advantage this weekend, and we know that can be a factor. But they're going up against a team that, probably out of all the unseeded teams, they are one of the ones that you would want to avoid. Jeff Smith, and as we're going to come on to talk about him later, Matt Campbell, who is one of the newest tour card holders. they had a good run last year, and they do make a very strong pairing. So that one for me is one that I'm really looking forward to. A few others, and this is really based on the World Cup and what this event brings every year. Austria, Mensah Suljovic, Roby John Rodriguez going up against the Philippines is always entertaining to watch. Lawrence Lagan, and he came through the qualifier in the Philippines to be in the team again. So I'm looking forward to that one. And some of the guests that we've got on the show this week as well. Gibraltar, they've got a new pairing with Sean Negrette making his debut alongside Justin Hewitt, two young lads in their late teens, early 20s, going up against the return of Singapore. It's going to be great to see them back involved. It was gutting to speak to Harith Lim last year, just after he found out that he wasn't going to be able to get that flight to Austria and miss the tournament. So really looking forward to seeing Paul and Harith Lim back involved. And I'll throw one more out there. Czech Republic against Poland. I believe the Czech Republic yet to get a win in the World Cup. They lost 5-4 to Belgium last year. Karol Sedlacek and Adam Gavlas, who we just seen get to a quarter-final on the Euro Tour against the Polish team of the two Krzysztofs. I think that could be one that could go all the way as well.
Yeah, you said a few that I was going to mention, but I have a couple others. I do want to start, though, with one that you said, Austria against Philippines. Not just, the Filipino team is probably one of the more experienced, if not, full stop, one of the most experienced teams in this field. And talented. Austria has some question marks. We haven't seen Mensah Suljovic until this past weekend for months. Roby John Rodriguez, we've seen quite a bit of him, but it'll be interesting to see him go against the Philippines because he's of Filipino descent. He plays quite a bit tournaments in the Philippines during the off season when he has the chance. And on a shirt that he, obviously not that won't be wearing this week, because he'll be wearing the Austria shirt, but his normal darts shirt has colors down both sides, one which represents, I think it's the left sleeve represents the Austrian flag, and the right sleeve represents the Filipino flag. So to go against the Philippines will be a big thing for him, as he represents one country that is a part of him going against another. Could make it for a very interesting match. I'll throw out a couple others, though, that you didn't mention. Ireland-Portugal could be an interesting match. The Irish team of Willie O'Connor and Steve Lennon, not that far away from being a seeded team. They have to go against the best player in the world, who's playing for an unseeded team in Jose de Sousa. Don't know as much about Jose Marquez, but don't think we need to know much about him because we know Jose de Sousa can do everything and then some. That could be a very interesting match. And whoever wins that match will have every chance to go far. It's not that long ago that Ireland made it all the way to the final. They could go out in the very first round because of the draw they have. And I'll throw out one other one involving a seeded team. I also am looking forward to Germany-Canada, but I'll mention that Belgium-Croatia match. Belgium with Dimitri Van den Berg and Kim Huybrechts are the fourth seed. Kim Huybrechts struggling a bit this year after it was a rebound year last year. Dimitri Van den Berg, struggling relatively speaking compared to last year, but still doing pretty darn well. But they got a tough draw in Croatia. I said earlier, Boris Kursmar is not getting results, but playing well. Maybe this is what he needs, representing his country, to get over the line and really start getting the results that his form dictates should be coming to him. A very interesting first-round tie, and one that I think Croatia has every chance to pull the upset in. I'm looking forward to that match, even if it's the last match of the first round, because, I think it's going to be a belter.
And before we get into our next guest, I'm going to put you on the spot as well. We heard from Dave Chisnall earlier. He thinks that darts has got a good chance of coming home. What do you reckon about the United States' chances of success this weekend? It's been a few changes to the team. Danny Baggish has sadly had to pull out. Darren Young was due to be in it as well. He's had to pull out a little while earlier. How far do you think the US are going to go this weekend?
Yeah, it's a bit sad that we don't have our only tour card holder and the person who's been the face of U.S. darts for so long. But we get Danny Lobby Jr., who's had a pretty darn good week in the Challenge Tour, making it through to a final, losing out in a last leg decider. And Chuck Puglia, who's a very talented player himself. The draw against Sweden, it's a good draw. Sweden's a tough opponent, but it's one that the U.S. has every chance to beat. And it's a match I think Sweden will be thinking the same thing. United States, it's a tough draw, but it's a team that we have every chance to beat. My heart says the U.S. is going to get over Sweden. I don't know what my head says. No, I'll go the U.S. to get over the line against Sweden because I want it to happen, but I just don't think the U.S. will get past Australia. I think Damon Hatta and Simon Whitlock are just too strong, especially in singles. If the U.S. can nip one of those matches and get it to a doubles decider, anything can happen. But I just don't think they will. I think Whitlock will play well. We know Damon Hatta will play well. So I'm going to go up to beat Sweden, but then go out in straight sets to Australia.
We shall see. Well, the way the draws worked out, we could have an England-US final on Sunday night. We'll certainly be talking about that next week if it happens. But let's move on to our next guest on this week's show. It's going to be one of the debutants in the World Cup this week. Here's our chat with Gibraltar's Sean Negrette. I'm pleased to say I'm joined by one of the debutants in this year's PDC World Cup of Darts, Sean Negrette. Thank you very much for the time, Sean. How are you doing?
No problem, I'm all good. How about yourself?
Doing good, thank you. And let's start with the World Cup. We're talking a week from the start of the tournament now. You're going to be making your debut for the Gibraltar team. How are you feeling right now, a week out from that debut?
Well, I'm quite excited, I can say. It's a dream come true, really. Since I started playing, I've always wanted to play on the big stage. I lost in the last round last year to qualify for the European Tour in Gibraltar, and I was quite annoyed with that. And coming from there, I think I've done a good job to qualify for the World Cup, and hopefully now in September as well, I could qualify for the stage. So yeah, I'm feeling excited for the World Cup. Let's see what we can do up there.
Definitely. Well, we'll come back to next week a bit later, but let's rewind back to the start for you in darts. How did you first get introduced to darts?
Well, my grandpa had a restaurant and he put up a board for me. Before this, when I was younger, I used to play, but I wasn't very interested. I was trying out different sports, and I left it, and in 2015 I joined back. Like I said before, my grandpa put a dartboard on for me, and I just liked the sport. I started watching the Premier League on Thursday nights, different tournaments here and there, and it really motivated me to believe in myself and hopefully one day play on that stage like I will be doing this year. So that's how I got in, really, just by watching it and falling in love with it.
So 2015, you get back involved in the darts, you take it a bit more seriously than you maybe did before. What is the youth scene like in Gibraltar, and what has it been like as you've come through the ranks?
To be honest, when I started, that was the year that a lot of youth players started playing, because in Gibraltar it wasn't that popular. And as more potential came into the youth, we had more players and more tournaments and more people involved. And really, when I started, there was a few players that were good level. I started from the bottom, and as I said, I practiced a lot and became in the top four with good form. And over the years, I've got experience with development tours and Wimmer and all these European Cups. It's given me confidence to play. And now I'm just, thanks to that, really, I'm just playing at this level.
You mentioned the European Cup. Of course, this won't be the first time that you've represented Gibraltar. You've played in the WDF Europe Youth Cup. What's it like putting on that shirt to represent Gibraltar?
It's amazing. It's an amazing feeling. We did it in the European Cup. I was actually partners with Justin Hewitt, who I'm going to be playing with this year in the World Cup. We actually, in the third year, we actually got to the semi-finals. So we have quite a bit of experience together, and hopefully we can put that experience on that stage and perform well together. So playing with Gibraltar, for Gibraltar, it meant a lot for my family and my friends, and I think we did well. We put Gibraltar on the map. Those 3 years of European Cup in Sweden and twice in Turkey 2 years in a row.
And you also mentioned the PDC Development Tour. We've seen you start to play on that the last couple of years. What has that been like, testing yourself against the world's best in your age group?
Yeah, it's been all right. Started off, didn't have much experience on as you say, these professional players, semi-pro, young players, very talented. It was hard at first because I was no one. I kind of started well, but I knew I didn't have the confidence to play on those types of matches. Once I started playing more tournaments, as it was 6 tournaments every time, I've gotten more confidence to play on the development tour. And to be honest, 2 weeks ago, I didn't really have a very good week, but I had loads of positives that I can get out from it, and hopefully it will help me in the future.
Fingers crossed. Well, I was looking back and I found a facts file on yourself from a few years ago which has your nickname down as the King. How did that nickname come about, and is it still the King?
Yeah, it's still the King. It was a few years ago, me and my friends just decided to get nicknames for each other, and it was nothing to do with darts really. And when I came into darts, I knew I had to get a nickname. People were calling me the King just before darts, so I thought, look, I'll just put the King. I'll try it out for now. I thought as well there's many Kings out there, but I could change the name to the King of Gibraltar or something like that. But to be honest, I haven't really bothered with the name. Just gone to play my darts really, and left the name how it is.
In October last year, you signed with the management stable at Darting Promotions. They also have two other young players from Gibraltar in Justin Hewitt, Craig Galliano on the team as well. How much help have they been since you joined about a year ago now?
They've been amazing. They've helped us so much. I don't think we could get this far without them. They've given us loads of support and courage to play in the big tournaments like development tours. There's more to come from us. We've been practicing hard, and hopefully we can put a show, and mainly on the World Cup next week. I think we're well prepared, and with the help of the guys and the support, I think they've helped us quite a lot. Couldn't complain.
And Gibraltar was one of the first places to really open up again since the pandemic. What has these last 4 or 5 months been like for you darts-wise? Are you back to playing in as much as you were before?
I've come back with more energy for the sport really, because it was a few months here at home practicing very little because there was nothing. Online tournaments and that, which wasn't very interesting to me because I don't like playing online. Coming back, I started playing a few tournaments, and I won a few tournaments here in Gibraltar, friendly tournaments, and then straight away we had the World Cup qualifiers, and I think that helped a lot because we were averaging well. Me, Justin and Craig, we were putting a good show here in Gibraltar. It was unlucky for Craig not to qualify. It was a tight one, and I think that it's going to be the next few years, it's going to be like that. Me, Craig and Justin are just going to dice. There's a few other players here in Gibraltar, but I think we're young and we have quite a bit of experience here in Gibraltar, and we're very comfortable here in Gibraltar playing.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun race to follow, and as you say, the way that the qualification works for the World Cup, some countries they may just have a one-day qualifier. You guys in Gibraltar, you have a series of events that run on.
Yeah, 6 tournaments, yeah.
What's that like then, having that go on for I guess longer than other countries? You've got the ups and the downs throughout the events, and then that big payoff at the end when you do manage to get in the top 2 and get that World Cup spot.
Yeah, I think as I started strong winning the first tournament, for me personally, every week I came stronger, and when I played the second week I realised I had a good chance and I had a few nerves, but then I thought about it, and I said before, it's my dream to play in the World Cup, and I just thought about that and thought about the light at the end of the tunnel, and that motivated me to carry on playing well and to finally reach the end.
And last year, Craig and Justin, we believe, made history as the youngest pairing in a PDC World Cup at 19 yourself, and Justin alongside you. Again, it's going to be another young pairing flying the flag for Gibraltar. Have you spoken with Justin much to find out how his experience on debut was last year?
Yeah, I've spoken to him. I practice with him every day. We've been speaking a lot. He's just given me advice really to calm down and to think of the good things that's going to happen on the stage, and to motivate each other really when we're on that stage. So I've also spoken to Craig about it, and he's given me a few tips for it as well. It's going to be my debut playing on the stage. Justin's played in European Tour, played here in Gibraltar on the stage, so he has more confidence and more experience playing on the stage, but I think we'll be alright.
And how about yourself then? Have you got much experience of playing in front of a crowd before, and how much are you looking forward to that opportunity, playing on TV, the big lights and everything like that that's going to come with it?
I've played a few exhibition matches on the stage in the European Tours a few years back. We had some professional players playing against us youth in Gibraltar. But other than that, not really much confidence. We do have a small stage here in Gibraltar to play the finals, and I played 5 finals, if I'm not mistaken, out of 6 for the qualification. So hopefully that will give me the experience and the energy for the stage.
Definitely. Well, when we're talking, the draw isn't out. We only know that the tournament is going to start on Thursday next week. Is there any team that you'd like to play the most? Do you want to have that experience of playing against a Gerwyn Price, a Michael van Gerwen, a Peter Wright, or do you not mind who you get?
We actually spoke about that today, me and Justin. I'm not picky, really. Whoever comes, we're just going to play our game. And as you say, it's the World Cup of Darts. There's many great players there, and we could get anyone. And it would be a fun experience. But to be honest, I don't mind who I get. I'll just go up there and play my game, and hopefully it goes well.
I should tell you, on last week's show, the show that's come out today, as we're talking, we had a guest on that's making their debut on the European Tour. We asked him who would you like to get in his debut, and he picked out a name, and the draw's come out, and he's got that name. So we could have been on a good run there if you wanted to make a name.
I'll say for a good experience, I'd say some nation like Wales. I have 2 top players. I think Wales is my pick. But again, don't really mind. I'm confident playing on the stage. Hopefully it goes well, and hopefully we can play a game and hopefully win.
Definitely. Well, what is the plan then between now and next Thursday? You mentioned that you're practicing quite a bit with Justin, your partner. When do you guys head out to Germany, and what does the lead up to the tournament look like now for you?
So we've been practicing, as you say, yeah. Today, actually, we went to the youth darts of Gibraltar, and we've spoken to a few youth players and tried to help them a bit, and also had a practice up there, the Europa Point Stadium. We're leaving next Tuesday. We're flying out to Heathrow, staying a night, and then next morning, early in the morning, I think it is, we're flying out with our manager Mark to Germany, and then I think it's another flight from a place in Germany to another place in Germany, and then a train. It's quite a long trip, so hopefully I can rest and get there with energy.
Definitely. Well, lastly, before we let you go, after the World Cup, you mentioned we've got the European Tour coming back to Gibraltar at the end of the month, the last weekend of the Development Tour in October. What else have you got lined up for the rest of 2021?
I think that's it, really. Can't think of anything, really, just a lot of practice for these tournaments coming up, and hopefully I can perform well.
Well, Sean, it's a pleasure to chat to you. We appreciate your time, and we wish you all the best on your debut, and also your partner Justin representing Gibraltar in the World Cup next week.
Thank you very much. Thank you for this. It's been great.
Thanks again to Sean for joining us. Now, away from the PDC, on Friday, the WDF announced that the World Masters, due to take place in the Netherlands this December, has been cancelled due to travel restrictions. How much of a blow is this to the WDF's plans to take hold of the amateur/semi-pro game?
I don't think it's too much long term, because they're not the only ones facing these problems. So even though they had to cancel, it's not like someone else is able to step in and fill the void, unfortunately, because of what's going on. As I said last year when they postponed everything, the key thing and the most important thing is just doing it right. And the WWF seemed to be wanting to make sure they do it right. And to rush an event where you can't get people in because of restrictions would not be doing it right. So while it does suck that it's not going to be happening, especially for players who might have already been planning their travel and planning the logistics of making the journey over, to not be able to go this year. Hopefully next year they will be able to. And it's better for the sport and better for the long-term credibility of the WDF that they hold off until they're ready to do it and able to do it right. So I don't think this is much of a blow for that reason, because they're keeping their credibility in check. And as long as they come back next year, or well, hopefully next year, and be able to put on the event, they'll be able to fill that void. We're not seeing UKDA or MAD do anything that is going to pull players away from WDF long term. And that's why I don't think it's a blow. It's a blow to the players. It's a blow to the back end of the year, the calendar, and everything we had to look forward to, but not for the WDF's aspirations, because next year they'll do it, and they'll do it right.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment. It was a shame when the news came out on, I think, Friday afternoon that the event was cancelled. And I guess with any organisation, cancelling events is not a good look. And we spoke about it on the show recently when the PDC cancelled the first women's series. And unfortunately, it's the situation that we're in still with COVID-19. Not all the restrictions are lifted around the world. Different countries are facing different restrictions. That was a big part of why this World Masters has been cancelled. The government guidelines in the Netherlands, they're not able to host multi-day events at the moment, which is what the World Masters is. It goes on for 4 or 5 days. So that was one of the reasons. And of course, as you say, they want to do it right. You've got 72 member countries involved in the WDF, and some of them just won't be able to get over. And you're talking some big countries as well in the world of darts, the likes of New Zealand and Australia, who have been able to get events on recently, but travelling over to Europe was going to be a no-go. And we've seen that with the PDC World Cup this weekend. The New Zealand team not able to get over. They're going to miss the tournament as well. So it's not just affecting the WDF, it's affecting all different organisations as well. And it's a shame we're not going to get the World Masters. John O'Shea, 3-year reign now he's going to have as champion. It does feel like a long time ago when we were at the Circus Tavern watching him beat Scott Waits in the final, singing Let Me Entertain You on the stage. But hopefully we'll get the World Masters back next year. I think the WDF, they do still have a lot of credit in the bank from that announcement, the recent announcement that their World Championship will be at Lakeside. They've got the Eurosport deal as well, and they've extended the field of players for the men's and the ladies events as well. So they've definitely got some credit in the bank, and now it is all eyes on that. And we're looking ahead to this weekend, the England Open. You've got a big field of players going to be involved in that. It's going to be one of those events where I believe if you win it, you get an automatic spot into Lakeside. That's the men's and ladies event as well. So lots to look forward to for them. And yeah, it's a bump in the road, but it's never going to be a straightforward route as far as amateur semi-professional bodies in the current COVID climate getting events on and getting things back to how they were. But fingers crossed, we'll get this event on next year, and the World Championship in January will be good to go.
We'll now go back to the PDC side of the amateur game. Challenge Tour came to an end this past weekend in both Germany and the UK. Jim Williams clinging on to top the UK Challenge Tour Order of Merit. Matt Campbell adding a third title as he pretty much runs away with the European Challenge Tour Order of Merit. What did you make of their performance over the weekend, and how do you see them getting on in their first year on tour next year?
It really was a bonkers weekend. We spoke on the show last week previewing it, saying will Matt Campbell and Jim Williams hold on to those 2 spots? And they had some sticky moments, it's got to be said, over the course of the weekend. And I was talking to our friend of the show, Andrew Sinclair, who runs inside the WDF, about the UK Challenge Tour in particular. And I mentioned that Jim Williams, who finished top, just got £250 from the 6 events, and that was enough to finish top of the table. And we were saying, is it a testament to the quality of the field, or is it the inconsistency of the top players? Where you look at the other players that were up there in the rankings heading into that final weekend, and Darren Beveridge, Sean McDonald, they both made finals on that first day. If they'd have won those finals, an extra £1,000, as it turned out, that would have been more than enough. They'd have finished top by quite a bit. So I think they're going to be gutted that they didn't get over the line. But as we know, there were 6 events over the weekend. Even after those 2 events on the Friday, there was still 4 events, and Darren Beveridge only picked up £50 from the last 4 events. Sean McDonald, £250. So they're going to be disappointed. Some other players as well. Martin Thomas, who won the first event of the weekend, and then he went out early in 4, I think, of the next events after that. Adam Smith-Neal, who won one of the first events, £50. They're all going to be disappointed, I think. Matt Campbell, on the other side of things, what an up and down weekend he had. He lost out in the first round, or didn't cash in on 3 of the first 4 events, comes back, wins that first event on the Sunday when he was really up against it. And full credit to him, as we've said before, the commitment that he's had this year to play Q School, to play the Challenge Tour, come over to Germany a couple of times now, and not had it all his own way, but he managed to get that title. So huge credit to him. And I think even before this past weekend, we'd have said he'd have been a great addition to the tour, and firmly believe that. Now it's a case of what are his plans going to be next year? Is he going to do what Jeff Smith's done, and maybe before the COVID times come over for maybe a month, 2 months at a time? Or if the events carry on the way they are, is he going to maybe bring his family over to the UK or Europe and base himself here? We don't know yet, but he's definitely got the quality to be a player up there. Jim Williams as well. If you'd have said at the start of the weekend, £250, do you reckon he'll finish top? He'll have said no chance. Well, he's done it. He's done enough. He's got the tour card. he's definitely a top 64 player, top 32. He's got the potential like a lot of players have, and he's in that stable with Mac Elkin, who've got a lot of top quality players. And who knows, maybe him coming back coming onto the PDC tour could help his good friend Glenn Durrant as well turn some form around as well. So yeah, I do think both of them will settle in well to life in the PDC. Top 64, I think, is obviously the target for both of them, and I think they'll do that.
You asked me over the weekend about Jim Williams and winning at Dorkart, and I said the only thing that can describe him is lucky to win it, based on what he did the second weekend compared to the first. He was the best player by far the first weekend, and might not have had the results that his performances deserve despite being top of the table. But he didn't get it done the second weekend, or didn't seem like he did. But neither did those people who were chasing him. And in the end, there were 14 players who were within 2,000 pounds of him. 14 players that if you take a first-round exit, get them over the line in that match, and they go on and win the title, would have seen them top, or 13 would have seen them top. Obviously, Jim Williams was already top. Adding on another 2,000 pounds would have kept him top. But it would have switched the result for any of those 13 people just behind him, including Cameron Menzies, who missed an event because he timed out, didn't show up, missed opportunity for him. But Jim Williams, he got it done that first weekend. And if he plays like he did that first weekend, that was at a Pro Tour standard. His performances across the week were at about the average for the Pro Tour. You know that he'll lift his game when he's playing against better players. His average only would go up because if he's losing, he's not going to be having to hit doubles and missing at the end. So that would put him up to 93, 94. And when he's winning, well, he was already winning with a 91, 92 average to begin with. If he can play like he did that first weekend, that already is right there at the average of the Pro Tour, which is pretty darn good. You think that it'll go up from there. So I think he'll get on pretty well next year, especially if he can play at that standard he did the first weekend. Matt Campbell, winning 3 titles on the Challenge Tour is very impressive. And especially after struggling the first couple of days to come through that first event, to win the title, to beat the guy who just passed him by winning the title in the fourth event of the weekend, Stephen Noster, to move back past him and ended up winning the title by 1,700 pounds. That's almost unheard of. 3 titles. I don't think we've seen someone win 3 titles on the Challenge Tour in quite some time. Of course, Rob Cross won 3 a few years ago, and would he do go on and win the world title the following year? Not saying that Matt Campbell's going to be world champion in a year, but winning 3 titles is very impressive, but he will have to lift his game. We'll see how he does if he has this level of commitment, and if he is able to get over the line like he was this past weekend, and well, both times there, he'll have every chance to be a top 64 player within 2 years. But I think we need to see a little bit more from him and of him before I'm able to say that. But I think he'll hold his own. He's definitely good enough to hold his own. What he'll do beyond that, only time will tell.
We move on to our final guests on this week's show, and it is the 2 players that will be representing Team Italy in the PDC World Cup this weekend.
I'm pleased to say I'm joined by the Italian team for this year's PDC World Cup of Darts, Danilo Vigato and Michele Turetta, and also he's going to be helping us with the translation, Jacopo Ghirardon. Thanks very much for the time, guys. How are you doing?
Thank you, Alex. It's a pleasure for us for being here. I'm going to help you with the translation. I don't want to waste a lot of time. Some of you knows me with my Twitter page on Twitter about Darts in Italy. I also run a Facebook page called Dildos for the Middle, but I'm here to help you with the translation. So I would like to introduce you Danilo Vigato and Michele Turetta. Ciao Danilo.
Hello.
both doesn't speak English too well. They are a bit shy, so I will help you with the translation. That was Danilo Vigato, and now it's time to introduce you Michele Turetta. Ciao Michele.
Hello.
Do you want to talk a bit more? Just a bit more? How are you? You are well.
Well, appreciate the time and appreciate your help with the translation. Firstly, we're in World Cup week. This year's World Cup is only 3 days away. How are the guys both feeling ahead of making their debuts for Italy? And we'll start with Danilo.
Mi sento pronto, carico come non mai. Stavo discutendo appunto con un amico e mi sento molto carico e mi piace il sorteggio che è venuto fuori.
Danilo is ready. Danilo can't wait to start. He's really can't wait to start. And and he really likes also the draw. I think we will talk about the draw later.
And how about Michele?
Sì, mi sento pronto. Come ha detto Danilo, siamo amici, dunque ho anche voglia di andare a fare questa coppa. Finalmente ce l'abbiamo fatta. Il sorteggio vale uno, vale l'altro, dunque è andata bene va bene anche l'Australia. Ecco.
Michele says that it's fine with the draw with Australia. Maybe we'll talk a little bit more after this one. And he really can't wait to play with Danilo because they are close friends. They are starting to stay together even during the weekends, so to prepare their best to play this World Cup. So I really can't wait to go to Germany to play the World Cup darts.
Excellent. Well, we will come back to the draw in the World Cup a little bit later, but I want to go back to the start for both of them in darts. We're starting with Michele. How did he first get into darts?
Al bar, ho iniziato con gli amici al bar e poi ho scoperto un po' il circuito italiano grazie alla Figest, un discorso soft, e poi ho scoperto lo stile, me ne sono innamorato e da lì ho puntato a diventare qualcuno, insomma, cercare di diventare un professionista, ecco.
Michele started playing at the bar with his friends, and they even started playing soft tip darts. You know that in Italy soft tip darts is even a little bit more popular than steel tip. Then it was very fast approaching even the steel tip world, the steel tip world, and now he's ready to play at the best level, and his dream is to become a professional player.
And how about Danilo? How did he get introduced to darts?
Io mi sono avvicinato nelle freccette nel 2005, un infortunio giocando a calcio, che mi ero rotto un ginocchio, e sono entrato in un pub del mio paese dove giocavano tanti amici, giocavano a freccette che io non sapevo neanche cos'erano. E da lì ho iniziato, grazie ad Essorino, il vecchio presidente, che purtroppo non c'è neanche più, dopo un anno mi è morto quest'anno, e ho iniziato a giocare a freccette. E poi, come sai benissimo anche tu, con Zach e con tutti loro mi hanno introdotto, mi sta piacendo sempre di più questa cosa, e come Michele il sogno nel cassetto sarebbe diventare un professionista.
His story is a bit complicated because he used to play football and he had to leave football, and after leaving football for a knee injury he started to play darts. He started a local pub in his local town, which is near Turin. And after that, he started to play. He was approached by Stefano Zanone, which was also the coach of the WDF team Italy during the several years. And after that, his dream is also to become a professional dart player.
And we'll stick with you, Danilo. You're a three-time Italian champion. You've represented Italy, as you mentioned there, at WDF level. What would he pick out as his favourite moment so far in darts?
Diciamo che tutti e tre i titoli che ho vinto sono stati dei momenti bellissimi. Ho avuto una bellissima esperienza quando ho conosciuto Andy Fordham il primo anno, che sono stato a fare il mondiale a Lakeside, che è stata una persona splendida. L'ho conosciuta e mi sono divertito un sacco. E avevo perso nella finale del mio girone contro Kim Rubran. Quell'anno lì.
So maybe his best moment is also about winning the Italian Championship and playing WDF level. Maybe it was playing against Andy Fordham, a legend of the game, also passed away not many times ago, and that was maybe his favorite moment. And also some other games at the WDF level, maybe reaching the last 32-16 maybe of a tournament a couple of years ago.
Michele, you've won several Italian team championships, as Jacopo was telling me. What have been his most memorable moments at the hockey?
Sì, il mio momento più bello è stato 4 anni fa, la mia prima Q-School, che è stata la prima volta che ho provato un torneo internazionale, e per un punto non ho preso la tour card, lì sarebbe stato l'apoteosi, insomma. Campionati italiani comunque tutti belli, però niente paragonabile a quello.
He says that nothing compares to play at PDC level. Italian things is one thing and PDC is another one. His best memory is playing in his very first Q School back in 2018. He was just 1 point away from getting a tour card, and the level there was absolutely amazing. There are players like Dirk van Duvenbode, Christopher Thijs, can remember, and Michele, came very, very close to get the card that year, maybe for 1 point. So that is his best memory about that.
You mentioned the PDC there with Michele coming very close at Q School, coming close to getting to the World Championship as well. I think a few games away from getting a spot. What have the experiences been like for him playing in the PDC events?
Bello perché comunque, cioè, a parer mio, io ho sempre giocato un po' più forte di quello che so fare realmente a casa, cioè non so come spiegartelo. È un'emozione che veramente ti carica, tira fuori tutto il meglio di te stesso se sei pronto, ovviamente, però ecco, non so come spiegarlo, è un po' difficile rispetto alla situazione, però è bello che è quello che voglio fare. Comunque la situazione.
He says that basically playing at the PDC level is just a different level than Italian or even European soft league championship like that. And it gives you a lot of strength, a lot of power, and I can confirm, even watching him playing in Switzerland, it was when he came just 2 games away from qualifying to the World Championship. When you're there, you have to do more to play your best if you want to have a chance. So that's playing with the best in a very best level, which is the PDC.
Back to you, Danilo. I've got to mention your nickname, the Tractor. Jacopo informs me it's because you work as a farmer. Who came up with the nickname, and do you have a tractor on your shirt?
Allora, il mio soprannome del Tractor è nato, che mi ha dato Giordano Reale. Quando giocavamo alla Palusa mi telefonava tutti i giorni perché mi stressava l'amena come fa Giurdo. Dove sei? Devi venire a giocare, le cose faccio io, dicevo sempre sono sul trattore che lavoro, mica che trattore, senti sto trattore, e poi è uscita la canzone andiamo a comandare in tangenziale col trattore, queste cose, ed è venuto fuori il trattore. E poi è nato quando ho fatto quella sfida con la PDC Europe, che ho perso 6-1 da Mike Van Gerwen facendo una partita stupenda, e lì è nato il mio soprannome The Tractor.
The Tractor nickname was born for 2 main reasons. The first one is because of his job, and it was born by Giordano Reale, which is the DAZN commentator for Italy in darts. So he's a popular figure in Italian darts, and he always called Danilo to come to play, and he always says, no, I can't because I'm working in a tractor. So that's why he became the Tractor. And after that, even first time he showed the shirt with the tractor, the item, it was during a PDC tournament. He played Michael Van Gerwen, he lost 1-6, and it was the first time he was called the Tractor in an international level.
Brilliant. Well, let's get back to the World Cup. You've both won through the qualifier about a month ago now. Danilo, what was that moment like when you won your spot? What emotions did you go through?
Ma sono sincero, inizialmente non avevo connesso molto bene la cosa che mi stava succedendo. Adesso come adesso ci sto riflettendo e sono contento. Sono contento perché è una cosa molto bella, una sensazione che mi ha riempito il cuore, anche perché sto andando su con una persona alla quale siamo amici. Non perché per telefono che sente che lo sto dicendo, perché è la verità. Abbiamo un buon feeling. Siamo 2 persone stupide allo stesso modo e so di per certo che faremo del bene e ci faremo un sacco.
I was smiling because he said that both are stupid, but in a smart way, in a smiley way. And anyway, it was when he first won the game. It was against Francesco Raschini. It was a battle. It was 4-0 down, and they came to win 6-5. He didn't even realize what happened. After the coming days, he says, yes, it's happening. I'm going to play the World Cup. So it's an amazing experience, and sharing this moment with his close friends in Michele Turetta will be brilliant. So he can't wait to start.
And how about you then, Michele? How did it feel for you to win that spot of the World Cup for the first time?
Le dirette di Facebook è stata una cosa pazzesca. L'ho seguita da 3 anni e ho rischiato che quest'anno di non farcela, per fortuna che il 40 è entrato questa volta e lì sono scoppiato contentissimo, pronto, lo volevo, ce l'ho fatta, dunque devo solo godermela insieme con Danilo e come ha detto lui siamo 2 gran stupidi, dunque sicuramente ci divertiamo e ce la daremo dura tutti, insomma, dai.
he continued to the fact that they are stupid in brackets a couple. They are very friends, and coming back to the tournament, he was nearly crying. Because he realized it was his dream coming true, and it comes so close during the years. That was the first time playing the PDC World Cup of Darts, and the first time in a PDC level, in a stage level. So he really can't wait. He was very, very happy, and now he really can't wait to start the journey with Danilo.
And the draw has been made today when we're talking. It's a tough draw in Australia, one of the seeded teams. Michele, what was your reaction when you saw the draw earlier today?
Sinceramente non ho provato niente, anzi speravo che fosse qualcuno ancora di più forte, perché l'Australia è una super squadra, dunque più o meno sono contento. Era quello più o meno che volevo, dai, diciamola così. Però no, come reazione sono tranquillo, so che non ho niente da perdere, dunque...
He's calm, and he proved not too many emotions. Our team is just like others, in his opinion. Anyway, playing one of the best players in the tournament, one of the best players in the world in Whitlock and even Meta, it will a great occasion for him. He's just here to enjoy playing his best, and he has no pressure. The pressure is all on the Australians, so maybe they can get the result they are hoping.
Italy have been a regular in the PDC World Cup for a little while now. To Danilo, what is the interest like in Italy ahead of the tournament? Have you noticed more people talking about it? And if you were to beat Australia in the first round, do you think the interest would really grow after that?
Allora, la sensazione, devo concordarmi con Michele. Cioè, sono stato contento di aver beccato l'Australia. È un ottimo team, sono due ottimi giocatori. Whitlock è un grandissimo, è uno dei migliori, si può dire, come giocatore. Però, come uso sempre dire io, sono gli altri che devono avere paura di me, non io degli altri. Quindi non mi interessa. Chiunque avessi trovato sarei andato con la voglia di vincere. Punto e basta.
He says that it doesn't matter what people say, and it doesn't matter the fact that you are playing Australia or a weaker or a best or a strongest team. They have a lot of respect. He has a lot of respect, for both Whitlock and Detta, but they are here not to be afraid, just to play darts and just to enjoy the moment, and why not to get the result.
And lastly, to the both of you, starting with Danilo, what are your future goals in darts beyond this weekend? Are you looking towards WDF events or the PDC route? What are your future goals in darts?
Mi piacerebbe fare innanzitutto bene questo torneo, sono sincero, ci terrei a fare bella figura, riuscire a giocare bene. Il mio futuro sarebbe provare con la Q-School a gennaio, quando sarà, riuscire a parteciparci e cercare di dare il meglio di me stesso, di provare a entrare dentro e vincere una toccata.
His dream is to play the Q-School, and his target, he firstly wants to enjoy the tournament and try to go as far as he can. And after that, concentrating on playing the Q-School is his dream, and his dream is, of course, to get the tour card and try to enter the professional world.
Best of luck with that when it comes around. And to Michele then, for yourself, you've come close at Q-School before yourself. Is the goal still to win a tour card, or are you looking at something else?
No, il mio sogno, cioè io sogni non ne ho, un obiettivo è quello di prendere la tour card. Il sogno vero per tutta l'Italia è sfatare questo mito di passare la prima partita, ma questo non è un sogno mio, è un po' di tutti, dunque il mio obiettivo è prendere la tour card e diventare un professionista, quello sì.
He says that he has a dream and a target. The target is to become the first player from Italy to get the tour card, so he will definitely try another goal in January or February when they will play. And his dream, but it's the dream of the whole community of Italian darts, is to go past the first round of the World Cup of Darts. And he feels he's ready, and we will see on Thursday night.
Well, we're all looking forward to that. Danilo and Michele, wish you all the best on your debut in the World Cup this week, and Jacopo as well, thank you so much again for your time and helping with the translation.
Thank you so much, and lui, Alex qui dice che insomma vi fa un grande in bocca al lupo e spera che vi possiate divertire e ottenere un ottimo risultato.
Grazie Ale, thank you Alex.
Thanks again to Team Italy for joining us, and we'll finish up the show with a question from our Patreon members. Question comes in from Bill Richards, who says, question for the podcast. do you think the Champions League will return?
I don't know. I think there's only a few people who do know, and one of those would be the chief executive of the PDC, Matthew Porter. And, well, we'll be talking with him in just a couple days. In fact, by the time you're listening, we might have already talked to him. And that's definitely something we will ask him, because we're getting close to 2022. And while there are still restrictions, you have to think that there will be something close to a full schedule next year. Maybe not as many Euro Tour events as we had in 2019. We might not yet be able to organize 13 events in a year with the uncertainty that still exists, but I've got to think there'll be 7 or 8, if not 10. But whether the Champions League returns, whether and in what format it returns, is something I think only he can answer. And I'm curious to see if he has an answer and he's able to share it with us yet, or if it's something that they don't know yet. So I think he's the only person who knows the answer to this question, and something we'll definitely pose to him in the coming days.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. And like you, we just don't know the answer to that question yet. It was one of the events which was cancelled last year, 2020, due to the pandemic, and it's something that's not really been brought up in 2021. I think the PDC have mainly focused on the ranking events that did manage to take place in 2020, getting them back on in 2021 probably is a bit too late now to see it happen this year. 2022, who knows? That could be the return of the Champions League. And I think even if it's not a Champions League, just having an event back on the BBC as far as a UK perspective here, even if it's just a weekend, that the coverage that the BBC can provide will be very beneficial for darts, not just the PDC, but darts in general, bringing in those new fans that it puts darts on the shop window for that weekend every year on terrestrial TV. RTV4 does a great job, but if you have darts on TV for a weekend on BBC One, BBC Two, it definitely does attract a lot more new people to the sport. Do they do the top 8 players again, or go for something else? I'm not so sure, but yeah, we'll be asking the chief exec that question later this week, or we'll have already asked him by the time you're listening to this, and hopefully we'll see the Champions League come back next year.
Anything else for this week?
As always, we have to say big thank you to all of our guests for their time. Thank you to everyone for listening. Got to give a shout out to Dan Dawson as well. He very kindly gave us a shout out on the PDC's stream during the Euro Tour at the weekend, so we really appreciate that. Welcome along to any first time listeners who maybe decided to give the show a listen this week after that shout out. Best of luck as well, we've got to say as well, to all the players, everyone involved in the WDDA World Cup World Championship. We spoke to Liz McLean on the show last week. Those events taking place in Scotland this week. And lastly, our Dartscast trivia. The first listener to tweet in the correct answer will get a shout out on the show next week. John Thompson got last week's question right, which was how many countries have hosted a European Tour event. The answer is, of course, now 9. Here is Dylan from Darts Cymru with this week's trivia question.
Hi guys, it's Dylan here from Darts Cymru, and here's this week's trivia question. Wales are the defending champions in the PDC World Cup of Darts this week, but how many different players have represented Wales in the history of the tournament?
And thank you to Dylan for that question. We'll be back. Well, we might be back with a special episode with the Matthew Porter interview. Maybe we'll save that to next week. That's still to be decided. But at the very latest, we'll be back next week to recap the World Cup and look ahead to a bunch more events that will be coming up. So please continue to get your questions in. Let us know anyone you'd like to hear from. Until then, you'll just have to hang tight. But as I always say this time of year, there's not going to be that much time to hang tight. It'll be mostly letting loose because, boy, there's a couple big months coming up. Sexy September is well underway, and it's only just a few weeks away until, I don't know a word that begins with O to describe October. Well, I'll have to think of one. So also tweet us something to describe October because we don't have that yet. Until then, hang tight.